Let's talk supply chain.
So, welcome to the show, Larry.
Hey, Sarah, how are you? Thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you.
I am so excited to have Larry on this show because you and I have been talking for a number of years. We actually met, I think, last Manifest.
We did. We had a great little sushi dinner.
We did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got introduced by Brian Glick of Chain.io.
The Sneaker King.
Right? The Sneaker King. And we've had some really great discussions. I love working with your team.
Thank you.
You're also doing some amazing things with Blended. You're a really big support of what we're doing at the Blended Pledge.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you before we dive into anything.
You're welcome. Thank you, because that's a lot of work. We appreciate it. We're really happy to support that.
Yeah, and we can't do it without organizations like Envase, to be able to drive diversity forward in our industry. And I know that that's a passion of yours.
It's massive, right? And our team gets behind it, right? And our culture committees and everything that we do at Envase, we love it. We're all about it.
All right. So before we get started, talk to us about what is Envase? What do you do? How do you help your customers?
So Envase is a digital drayage intermodal platform. And the way that we look at that is that we are a platform that helps optimize terminals.
Okay.
The terminal can be the marine terminal or it can be a rail terminal.
We need that badly.
We do. And so we feel like we've got this ability now with the things that we've done in our platform in order to help offset some of those bottlenecks that terminals have every single day. Again, whether it's a rail environment, whether it's a marine environment. So it's a really cool thing called a drayage truck that has to go in and out, whether it's a rail or whether it's a marine environment, as you know. So we got a little area where we can play there because that's our platform. So we've got so many people, thousands and thousands and thousands, 35,000 plus drivers that run on our platform every day.
And so talk to us a little bit about your journey. Have you been in supply chain your whole career? And I think one of your philosophies is around mergers and acquisitions.
It is.
There's been some major acquisitions. We've got some big news, which we'll talk about in just a second.
Sure.
But talk about past acquisitions, because you've grown by acquisition, I think like 14 companies or something.
We have, yeah.
So talk to us about your journey. Why are mergers, important for us here in supply chain?
It came to me 4 years ago. I had what I call my gear shift moment.
Okay.
I use a lot of truck analogies because at heart I'm a trucker. So just to let everybody know, I love to drive a truck. That's my first passion, is to drive a truck if I can.
Yep.
And so it started that as a young age. My grandfather got to sit in the truck with him and drive. And so that's just where it all started from. And just saw this opportunity in the space by just saying, it's so fragmented, it's so disconnected. And when I was on the motor carrier side, again, gear shift moment, I said, wow, wouldn't it make sense in order to consolidate, to have these other platforms all be one, rather than everybody doing their own thing?
Oh my goodness, you're speaking my language, Larry.
So these guys, I've known them for 20 years, and they weren't young companies, right? The barriers to entry are really, really high. Yeah. So you've got 20-year-old companies, 25-year-old companies, Profit Tools, CompCare, GTG, all 20-year plus companies.
Right.
Knew the owners and said, guys, we have to do this together. Let's get together. And you know what? I was really fortunate because we all got along as competitors, and now we're all on the same team.
Yes, I love that. And actually, you just reminded me of our first conversation and you talking about getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Like you actually going and testing things out yourself
100%.
in a truck or on the ground. Talk to me about that. Why is that so important?
Again, something you started with, it gets back to culture, right? So for me, I learned at an early age, and I'll take a lot of my grandfathers and dads, scenarios where they'll explain things. A fish rots at the head. So if you think about that, right, a fish rots at the fish has got to swim through the water, but if it doesn't have a head, it can't swim.
Right.
So from us, we lead by example. Anybody executive on our team, if I'm going to ask somebody to clean the toilet, I am the best damn toilet cleaner in the company. The best. And I would never ask anybody to do anything that I haven't attempted or I know how to do. Yeah. And so that's the way that we approach the way that we do business. Yeah. Is that, hey, let's collaboratively think of this. What are we solving for? How do we go do it? Yeah. And so that's the part that we love.
You and I have a lot in common because I'm the same, right? I've built, this company from the ground up, and it was only me at the very beginning, so I was kind of doing everything, and so I've done everything when I ask somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
And it makes such a big difference.
It really does. I mean, I still, if I can drive a truck, I will. If I can dispatch and somebody lets me get in the dispatch seat, man, I love it, right?
And I'll jump in.
I love talking to the drivers. I love talking to what's going on in terminal operators and every part, what I call every stakeholder, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really hard what they do.
Yeah, it is really hard.
It's really, really hard. Our industry is tough, Sarah. You know, you've done it. It's hard. It's really hard.
It is. So I mentioned earlier, you've got some big news.
I do.
So tell us what you announced on February 22nd.
So we are really, really stoked. Use my California word there, since even though I'm on the West Coast, I'm an East Coast guy, right?
Okay.
So super stoked and pumped that we joined the WiseTech family. And we were acquired by WiseTech on February 22nd, and we are really, really excited about that. They have the same culture process as we do. They care about their people, they love their people, they do things. And so it was just really a perfect fit for us to align with the strategic rather than go the private equity firms or go with the venture capital area. We just felt that was the best path for us. And so it's just gonna be awesome.
And congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. So
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about WiseTech. They're out of Australia.
They are, yes.
And so what do they do, and how is that collaboration or strategic partnership really going to make an impact on the industry as well as for your clients and theirs?
So Richard White, the founder and CEO, is an absolute genius. The man understands supply chain. And so when I gravitate towards people that I can talk about supply chain, I love to geek out on it. And so Richard was able to have the foresight. We're building what I call the landside solutions.
Okay.
And they have the freight forwarding aspect. And so now when we can populate those data points to one, everybody wins. The freight forwarding aspect wins globally or domestically or whichever continent you're on. And then the landside logistics to help, those are just important data nodes that all the shareholders win on, right? And so that's why it's so exciting, because nothing has been attempted like that.
Okay, well, we can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Now, talk to me about the market right now. Talk to me about the part of the industry that you focus on as Envase.
Yep.
What is happening right now? Because we're seeing, we've seen all sorts of disruptions.
We have.
Everybody's talking about risk.
Yes.
So what are you hearing? What are you seeing right now, and how people are talking about drayage, how they're talking about rail, how they're talking about terminals?
It's still the same old. We still fight the fight every day about collaboration, right? And so when we look at that, right, we fight that every single day. People want to be protective of their data. They don't want to share. They don't want to be friends. They don't want to reach across the aisle. Right. So we take a very different approach to that. Is that how do we be collaborative? But in this environment, right, what's post-COVID look like versus pre-COVID, right? So if you were to start to do some of the analytics there, right, there's a real big spotlight on visibility and transparency.
There is,
right?
Although people use that word kind of loosely, right? We're hearing visibility, and it means something different to you than it is to me, than it does to somebody else.
Honestly, it makes me gag. Okay, so here's why.
Let's dive into it.
Yes, here's why. It's table stakes. It's a dot on the map. If you don't understand visibility, you have other components in order to get the visibility. You have to have transparency. Okay. All right, so again, the same, but you have to understand what utilization is. You have to understand what capacity is. Surge capacity is very different from regular capacity. You guys, we know we have to manage these highs and lows.
Which is what we saw during the pandemic.
Exactly. Yeah. And we didn't have the labor force. No. We didn't have the infrastructure. No. We had a bloated, inventory. We had people with excess money that were spending. So now it's like, wow, it's this culmination, this perfect storm that happens. So now what do we do going forward? And so we have to iron out all those wrinkles or those waves or speed bumps. Yeah. And so now what does that take in order to do that? And so capacity and utilization, you have to understand those two components in order to get really good visibility. Technology drives visibility. And if you're not good at it, utilizing capacity and utilization, you're done, you're cooked, right? But that ultimately gets to really where everybody wants to get to is optimization. And that's the thing that everybody overlooks. How do you get to optimization? So again, another buzzword everybody uses, but it's data points. Yeah. How do you normalize and synthesize the data in order for it to be useful for you, for me, for this person? That's the really hard part.
So what would you say to somebody in the audience who is maybe just starting their digital journey?
Yeah.
Which hopefully there's not too
I love that. Love that word, by the way.
What would you say to somebody, looking to start? Where do you start? Because I feel that even in 2023, we're still talking about data.
We are.
We're still talking about how the word chips and crisps mess up your data because you need to have the same word that everybody uses globally or internally or whatever to really clean up your data, have good data to be able to even embark on a digital journey.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's just starting? Like, what do we do? How do we get there? And it almost feels like we have way too many people that we're kind of dragging along.
We are. There's lots of PowerPoint ideas out there about how to do things. There's lots of really solid ideas. But one of the things that's happening now, which is a really good thing, is that there have been a lot of great startups, a lot of great ideas on how to create and look at that, right?
Yeah.
But now you have to put up or shut up, as I say.
Okay.
Right? Because if you don't show that you can scale, your proof of concept, you actually can drive what that looks like, and you can drive tangible results. And if you can't, you're going to go out of business real quick. Because now people have said, okay, we've invested this money, we've tried this concept, now what am I getting?
Right. That's true. But then there's lots of different options out on the market right now.
Oh my gosh, there are.
And so for a lot of people, especially supply chain professionals, they're like, where do I start? I mean, obviously they can come to Let's Talk Supply Chain and find a solution to their challenge, because we interview companies like yours to find out what you do so that they can really understand in their terms how it can help them. But other than that, right? Yeah. How do you figure out what the right solutions are? Like, what are the conversations that you're having with your customers, or how are they finding you? So we were born with 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. So don't speak a lot, right? And so what we try to do is we try to listen and take that proactive approach, a consultative approach, and say, hey, let us understand what it is. So when you're looking, whether it's a brand new scope of work, everybody gets scope creep on every project that you have, it's understanding really what the deliverables are. So if you can establish matrix KPIs, again, this isn't new, right? And so I say that all the time. We have somewhat perfected the movement of cargo. But man, we are at the infancy of the movement of data, right? Even though we talk about it, but nobody's like, oh my gosh, like how do I do that? Well, is it an API? Is it an EDI? Is it an email? Like what is it? Is it a fax? Excel. Excel. Everybody loves Excel. That is. We love Excel too. Yes. But we do need to move on. The world's #1 TMS. It's our #1 meme. It is. We like put out the Excel meme every 6 months. Yeah. And everybody, we get tons of reactions. It's really fun. Oh, I bet. For sure. So when you're talking to clients right now, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the objections that you come across that they're coming to you with? So it's driver turnover, right, on our side, right? Well, and also trying to find new drivers. Finding new drivers. There's a lot of things. Your normal drayage driver, particularly if you're in the marine environment and the national side, they have additional requirements that your normal CDL driver don't have, right? They need a TWIC card. They need to have certain criteria to get on and off. So that limits the pool of drivers that are available at that point, right? I was having a previous conversation. We just look at one market. Let's look at LA, Long Beach. You have 18,000 drivers that are there. One ship rolls in at 22,000 TEUs. Do the math. How do we do that, right? It's how do you give the driver, and we talk about this all the time. Our premise is, what's the journey? What's the journey of the driver look like? How do we improve the journey of the driver? And if we can do that at the lowest level, everybody else benefits. Because if the driver's happy, you as a BCO, as a shipper, and you can get a quarter of a turn out of that driver, just a quarter. Guess what happens? Everybody makes money. That driver makes money, the BCO makes money, the terminal's happy, right? They don't have to do on-dock storage, right? All these things are on-rail storage. It's everybody wins. So it's giving the right tools to the driver, which everybody benefits from. I love that, and I'm pretty sure you've taken that journey, right? Listen, I do. You jumped in the truck and you've seen how it operates. I'm from Boston, and I swear a lot when I'm in a truck, so yes. Yes. All right, now let's focus on the future. Yeah. So what do you think the future of logistics, supply chain, drayage, what does that look like, and how long is it going to take us really to get to that peak of digital adoption where everybody is winning? You said you weren't going to ask me any hard questions. That's a hard question because there's so many different avenues that you can go down with that, right? It's really about something that we talk about all the time, which you're a big fan of and we're a big fan of, is the collaboration aspect, right? And so how do you get people to share, right? And nobody wants to share. So as an example, if I look at 2021, inventory and carrying costs were up 29% from the previous year. Okay. $506 billion, right?
how does that affect the supply chain? If we just concentrated on how do we look at inventories, how do we share that data in order to drive overall transportation costs down, just not drayage, right? But just overall in everything. 95% of the world's goods are moved on water in a container of some sort. So it's our little environment of drayage is the smallest component of a really big ecosystem. So how do we start taking and just turn that a little bit in order to drive that down? And it's exchange of data, and there's no specific format, there's no specifications, right? And so that's the really hard part. We've got air, we've got ocean, right? We've got LTL, we've got truckload, we've got all these different modes, but nobody shares the same DNA in order to actually say, hey, this is how we do this better.
And there's so much money at stake. Like you just said.
Oh my gosh.
You mentioned a really large number, and that's
huge.
A portion.
Massive.
Right? When we talk about supply chain, we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars.
It's monumental.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy.
And we need to get this right, people. Collaboration is the future of business. You heard it here. So one last question
Yes,
for
sir.
you. Now that you've joined WiseTech,
yes.
What is the future for Envase, WiseTech, for yourself?
We want to absolutely, we're never happy with status quo. WiseTech is not, Envase is not, and again, that's why this marriage and why this togetherness of sharing the same DNA works. We want to scour how to improve. And so mergers and acquisitions will absolutely be part of our process going forward, without a doubt. The really cool thing is that now that we've got the land side logistics with Envase and One WiseTech, we can start to look at other geographic areas that work really well. Right? So that's the really fun part. So stay tuned, more to come.
So many exciting things happen. Now, how can people find you? What's the website? Can they find you on LinkedIn? How do they get in touch to find out more?
So Larry Cuddy on LinkedIn, obviously. EnvaseTechnologies.com. Long word, sorry about that, but it just is that it's one word, Envase Technologies. And certainly, I always like, whether you're going to be on the social channels, whether it be from a Twitter or whether it be from any other platforms, certainly do that. Absolutely.
Reach out to Larry, reach out to his team, especially if you need help from a drayage standpoint, because they are the ones for you. And stay tuned for some more exciting things from Envase, Larry, the team, and WiseTech.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thanks, Sarah. It's awesome. I appreciate it. All right.